of British Industry, the CBI, calls itself the voice of business, claiming to speak on behalf of 190,000 businesses employing up to 7 million people. And according to the CBI, British businesses overwhelmingly back the idea of remaining in the EU. What's more, they've been encouraging their members to talk to staff about the referendum, to give them, quote, the choice to hear what impact a Brexit would have on company growth, their jobs, and the local community. Now, as you can imagine, Leave campaigners are not amused. The chair of the Vote Leave Business Council, John Longworth, a former Director General of the British Chambers of Commerce, said the call was an anti-democratic abuse of power by the EU-funded CBI. He added it's highly regrettable to see big corporate bosses plotting to gang up on their staff and to lecture them on how to vote. Well, we're joined now by the Director General of the CBI, Carolyn Fairbairn. Welcome to the programme.
Good morning.
Now, if big business told its workers how to vote in a general election, there would be uproar. So why are you encouraging your members to warn their workers about the dangers of Brexit?
Oh, to be absolutely clear, Andrew, that's not what we have said. What we have said is that workers, people working today in our economy, want to hear from their employers about what it means on either side of the debate.
But that's not what you said. You said what impact Brexit would have on growth, jobs in the local community.
Positive or negative.
You didn't say,
positive or
let's
negative.
hear about that. But you didn't say that.
But this is absolutely clear. This was not about warning anybody. This is about the questions that people are now asking about what it means for them. We were very clear about that.
But most of your members, as you claim, are in favour of staying in the European Union. So the message that will be going out to the workforce will be overwhelmingly about remaining in the EU.
The main thing here is that people who are going to vote on the 23rd of June have as good an understanding as they possibly can for what it means for their jobs, their families and their communities. And that was the key message.
Okay.
It was nothing about taking a side or telling people how to vote.
We learned this week that one of your members, SERCO, was planning a pro-EU campaign with the Prime Minister, even before the renegotiations were finished. Did the CBI or any other of your members have similar discussions with the government?
To my knowledge, no. But what I would say is that the conversations that businesses, universities, all parts of a society have with government go on every day. And
but were you planning the pro-EU campaign with the government even before the renegotiations had finished?
No.
Because SERCO was.
No. So everything that the CBI has done has been a result of things that we have done with our members on behalf of our members. We have not had those discussions.
Now, SERCO has contracts with the government worth several billion pounds. The taxpayer pays for that. His boss, Rupert Soames, he was offering to do what he could to help the Prime Minister keep Britain in the EU. So there he is getting all these contracts and he says, the Prime Minister will help you. It was a behind closed doors stitch-up between big government and big business, wasn't it?
I think the really important thing here is to understand what businesses are saying across the country of all sizes. You're focusing here on one company. And what we are seeing every day is a new voice of business, whether it's coming from farmers or from automotive, or saying that the majority of businesses do want to
I understand that, and I'm not arguing about that.
Really
I'm just asking you if you think the way SERCO has handled this, really, it does smell of a stitch-up.
I don't think this is a stitch-up, Andrew. I think this is about voices of business being heard on issues to do with jobs and growth and the future prosperity of our country. And that is what, people can make their decisions on polling day about a whole variety of factors. But businesses who are every day trading with the European Union, having their voices clearly heard.
I understand, and the SERCO's voice was certainly clearly heard because he saw the Prime Minister, Mr. Soames. Let me just show you what he then did in the follow-up letter. He talked about backing the Prime Minister's campaign to keep us in the EU, even though it was only in February, the renegotiations weren't finished. But he then went on, basically, to lobby for business, that he provides private services to prisons, and he said, we discussed the oddity that persists in the supply of prison places. He wants more business at the same time. It really does add to the sense that this is big business feathering its own nest.
But I don't think that's not what's going on at all. There are conversations all the time, Andrew.
Was he wise to do that, though? Was he wise to lobby for more business at the same time as lobbying to stay in the EU?
I think that there are conversations happening all the time.
But is that conversation appropriate?
Well, I think those are questions for other people. I mean, I stand for, the CBI represents many businesses across the UK, and you're picking on one. I think the important thing is that the voices of the many are heard in this.
Well, are the voices of the many heard, though? Because the CBI, you get the impression you like the EU because it's a one-stop club for big business. There are 30,000 lobbyists in Brussels, most of them arguing for the interests of your kind of member, for big business. Ordinary folk don't get a look in.
I just don't think that is true. We've had 20 business surveys since the beginning of the year of all different sizes of business, Andrew, and they are all saying broadly the same thing. Not completely unanimous, absolutely accept that. We just had the Creative Industries Forum coming out with a survey. 93% of creative, because they're big exporters. This is not just big business. This is all sizes of business. Well, very important.
But let's look at how the EU is good for your members, but not necessarily for the rest of us. The European Court of Justice, it's the ECJ, the court of the EU. It has forced HMRC to hand back almost £8 billion in tax paid by big British companies, overruling tax laws made by our government and our parliament. That's good for big business. It's not good for our public services.
There are areas where we pool sovereignty in order to have a level playing field across Europe for businesses overall. We're not always going to like all of the rules. Well, but it's a question of whether the benefits outweigh the costs.
Well, the benefits to your members are clear. They're paying $8 billion less in tax, and the Independent Office for Budget Responsibility, it expects HMRC to pay another $8 billion back by the end of the decade. And this is about tax avoidance. This is about moving your profits, moving your business to lower tax regimes, and then not allowing HMRC to get the proper tax. I mean, that's not fair to ordinary people.
Well, to be absolutely clear, the CBI and businesses overall don't support aggressive tax avoidance. And absolutely support the moves that have been taken at the OECD level to sort this out. So this is not something that is supported.
But your members will be 16 billion better off, and British schools and hospitals and public services will be 16 billion worse off. Indeed, if the HMRC goes down in all of these cases, we could be 40 billion worse off. Good for big business, not good for the local school and hospital.
Well, I don't know the exact details of those numbers you're talking about. What I would say is that the moves to improve tax policy are absolutely supported by our members.